Hi, you're sewing with Cody, and in this video I want to show you the importance of using the 97 and 97D quarter-inch foot and what makes it different from our 37, 37D, 57, and 57D quarter-inch feet. So first off, here is one of our traditional quarter-inch feet. This is a 37, which also comes in a D version. I do not have the D version on hand, but it looks just like that. And then here is our 97D. Also comes in a regular 97 version for those non-dual feed machines. So when we look at both of these feet, we can see the 37 foot where from the center needle position to the right side and to the left side of the foot, it's 1/4 of an inch. And also you've got these little notches. These notches are 1/4 of an inch apart from each other. The center notch represents where the needle is located. The front notch is basically 1/4 of an inch from that center needle position. So if we need to stop, say if we're sewing, we need to stop 1/4 of an inch away from the edge of the fabric. In the case of putting on binding, you're going to stop at that first notch. All of our 1/4 inch feet have these notches to represent those 1/4 inch markings. The other thing about the 1/4 inch foot is with this 37 and the 57, because it's 1/4 of an inch from the center of the needle position to the right and to the left side of the foot, this is the optimum foot for a 5.5 millimeter stitch width machine. However, it's not the best foot for a 9 millimeter stitch width machine. And that's because if we take a look at this 9 millimeter stitch width machine, you can see those feed dogs are nice and wide. And they have to be wide because if we were to have the 9 millimeter stitch plate on, you can see we have a nice 9 millimeter stitch width gap. So we can move our needle positions all over the place. We can do nice big decorative stitches. So our feed dogs need to be further apart in order to do all of this. So if we, even like we have the 0 millimeter stitch plate on, which is highly recommended when using 1/4 inch feet, and I'll explain that in a minute. So if we have this 37 foot on, and it doesn't matter if the 37 or the 37D, so when we put this on, look, I can see all of my feed dogs. There's a few smaller ones here and some in the back and the one directly in the center. But the most important, this nice long one, which will keep our fabric nice and straight and give you even feeding, it's not even coming in contact with the foot because the foot is so narrow. So BERNINA has come out quite a few years ago. They came out with the 97 and the 97D. So with this 97, so if we lower the foot, you don't even see the feed dogs. And because, as you can see here, from the center needle position to the right side of the foot, that's where 1/4 of an inch is. So if we're sewing, we usually have the bulk of our fabric to the left of the needle. So that's why on the left side of this foot, it's so much wider because it wants to cover all of those feed dogs to give us much better feeding. So when you're working on a 9 millimeter stitch width machine, like the 770, the new generation 570, the 580, 590, 780, 790, 880, 830, and your 9 millimeter stitch width machines, including the 480, the new 480, they're 9 millimeters. So you want to make sure you're using either a 97 or a 97D foot. The D you only use with machines that have that built-in dual feed back there. Any other machine that's 9 millimeter and that does not have the dual feed, you're going to want to use just the regular 97. It's the same footprint like this. It just doesn't have this cutout in the back to accommodate that built-in walking foot or built-in dual feed. And as I mentioned before, you're always going to want to make sure you are using that straight stitch, that 0 millimeter stitch width plate when we're piecing. Because if we are starting from like the edge of our fabric here, see if I can do a better view. So if we're starting from the edge of the fabric, like at this corner, we can easily start the corner right at the corner and start stitching, and it doesn't hesitate. It just sails right through it. Because if we would have had the 9mm stitch width plate on, what would have happened is as the needle came down, it would have poked down into that gap and caused nothing but headache every single time you have tried to sew from an edge, or especially from a corner like that where there's not much fabric to feed through. So that's why it's important to use your 0mm stitch plate. Now I get a lot of times I get this question, because the 37 and then there's the 57 they're identical, except the 57 has a metal guide along the right side of the foot to help you guide and keep your fabric and give you that beautiful 1/4 inch seam. However, with the 97, there's only the 97. There's not a 97 with an attached guide. But the 97 and the 97D come with this patchwork seam guide, which I definitely did a video on a while back. So this patchwork seam guide also comes with this little screw, which you can screw in. It comes with this little screwdriver. So if you notice, this foot has this little cutout right here. Let's get a closer view of it. That little cutout's perfect for lining that guide right up against. And then you can tighten that screw. And then when you are trying to get that nice perfect 1/4 inch, you can ride the fabric right up against that guide, which is the edge of the foot, will give you a beautiful 1/4 inch seam. So there's really no need for 2 feet now, because you can just use your 97 or 97D, get that perfect 1/4 inch. When you're going from point to point, you just remove the guide, or you can even just kind of just loose them and put them out the way, so you can go right from that corner. Or if you need that guide, you can kind of swing them around and tighten that screw back, and you've got that perfect guide. The beauty about the guide, like I mentioned in another video, is you can use this with just about any foot, not just a 1/4 inch foot. I think that's about it with this 97D foot. There's a lot of people who have a lot of questions with why do I need the 97 if they have the 57 or 37 foot D, and this is why. They are not the same. If you're working on a 9mm stitch width machine, you'll get much better traction, much better feeding with the 97 foot. All right, well, I hope this helps all of you, and happy sewing.